Episode 3, Ava, Controlled Damage.
Ava liked quiet. Quiet felt controlled, and controlled felt safe, which was probably why her apartment looked like a Pinterest board designed by somebody with trust issues. Everything had a place. Everything matched. Everything made sense. Unlike her phone. The screen lit up again against the darkness of her bedroom. "Do you awake?" Ava stared at it for a second before rolling her eyes softly. Of course he waited until midnight. Of course. Because men like Jaden never arrived during normal emotional business hours. They showed up when people were lonely, when defenses were tired, when silence got too loud. Ava typed, deleted it, typed again, clearly. 3 dots appeared immediately, 2 immediately. And that annoyed her too. Damn, attitude already? Ava smirked despite herself. That was the problem with Jaden. He always made almost feel close enough to confuse her. Another notification appeared. This one from Aiden. "Good night, beautiful. Big meeting tomorrow. Don't stay up too late." Ava stared at both messages. One man gave her consistency. The other gave her adrenaline. And unfortunately, adrenaline had always been harder for her to ignore. She thought about the last time she had dinner with Aiden. How he had remembered her order without asking. How he had listened, actually listened, while she talked about a project that had been stressing her for weeks. How he had looked at her across the table like she was someone worth planning a future around. That should have been enough. It should have been more than enough. Ava set Aiden's message down unanswered and looked at Jaden's again. "Come downstairs." Ava frowned immediately. "You outside?" "Maybe." Ava sat up slowly, and there it was, that feeling again. Not excitement exactly, more like emotional bad decision-making wearing expensive cologne.
The next morning, Ava looked flawless. Of course she did. Hair smooth, makeup soft, gold jewellery catching light every time she moved. Ava did not believe in letting life embarrass her publicly, which meant nobody at work could tell she had slept 4 hours and spent 20 minutes rereading text messages like they contained hidden emotional black romance text. Her phone buzzed again across the desk. "Jaden, you mad at me?" Ava stared at it. Because that was the thing about emotionally inconsistent men. They always came back right before you convinced yourself to stop caring. Her coworker leaned against the edge of her office door. "You coming to lunch, or you got another fake work excuse today?" Ava looked up smoothly. "I actually work here, unlike y'all." Her coworker laughed. But Ava's attention dropped right back to her phone. Unread, unsatisfied, still waiting for something she could never fully define. Another message came through. Aiden. Aiden. "Reservation tonight, still good?" See? That was what normal looked like. Stable, intentional, predictable. So why did it feel like eating salad when her emotions wanted fries? By the time Ava got home that evening, her social battery was dead. Heels abandoned by the door, purse tossed onto the kitchen counter. Silence filling the apartment. Her phone buzzed again. Jaden. Ignored. A knock sounded at the door instead. Ava frowned softly before opening it. And there he was. Corey, holding takeout bags. Corey lived 2 floors up. He had moved in 6 months ago and had somehow become the only neighbour Ava genuinely did not find exhausting. Not because he tried to be easy to be around, just because he was. "Your girl from the 3rd floor said you skipped dinner again." Ava blinked. "You spying on me now?" Corey smiled slightly. You just make starvation look expensive." Ava laughed before she could stop herself, which irritated her immediately, because Corey always did that. No games, no emotional gymnastics, no disappearing acts. Just calm, steady, easy. And Ava honestly did not know what to do with easy. He stepped inside carefully. No pressure, no performance, just presence. And somehow that felt more intimate than flirting ever had. Corey had only been gone an hour when Jayden called. Ava looked at the screen and almost laughed, because of course the universe had timing like that. Corey barely out the door before the other one came knocking, like her life was staged by someone with a very specific sense of humour. She stared at the screen like it personally offended her, then answered anyway. "Hello? You busy?" There was music in the background. Voices. Movement. Jayden always sounded like he was calling from somewhere better than where he actually wanted to be. "Depends why." He laughed softly. "There she go." Ava leaned against the kitchen counter. "You disappear for 2 days, then randomly pop back up at night. You don't get smooth voice privileges right now." "Damn, you miss me that bad?" Ava closed her eyes, because there it was again. That pull. The emotional inconsistency. The unpredictability. The almost. Jayden lowered his voice slightly. "I'm outside." Ava's stomach tightened instantly. And I hated that. Hated how certain people could still create reactions in her body before they earned access to her, emotionally. Ava knew exactly what kind of man Jayden was. The problem was, sometimes knowing better and wanting better were two completely different things. 2 nights later, Ava sat alone on her couch, pretending she enjoyed wine more than emotional clarity. The apartment glowed softly around her. Perfect lighting, perfect furniture, perfect atmosphere. A perfectly curated life. Her phone buzzed again. "Jayden. My bad. Been busy." Ava laughed once. Dry. Busy. That word men used when they wanted access without accountability. Another knock interrupted her thoughts. This time when she opened the door, it was Corey again, holding food. Again. "Before you ask," he said calmly, "yes, I'm aware Uber Eats exists." Ava smiled despite herself. Corey looked at her for a second. Really looked at her. Not the outfit. Not the makeup. Not the polished version. Her. "You okay?" And that question hit differently than it should have. Because most people asked it waiting for a performative answer. Corey sounded like he was actually prepared to stay for the truth. Ava looked down briefly, then stepped aside silently, letting him in.